Greyhound bus flag. Thank you. I don't know. Don't go there.
I know people that don't know. I know somewhere.
Just walk up and ask.
I did.
Well, good.
No, I asked him his name one more time.
No, you won't.
What is it?
Ooh, I like this spot right here. Can you imagine going across the ocean in one of these? Probably do. That's the carry through for the wing. That's the carry through for the wing. See that lady right there? Ask her. Wow, that's a lot.
Not yet. Not yet. They're gonna wait.
Okay.
Oh, good. Okay, you're good to go.
All right.
How many years time?
Ready.
I would do no more than like 5.
Got everything covered up that you need to get covered up? I've been in a C-130 when they said, oh, hold on just a minute. Let me cover up a couple of things.
Nothing secret up here.
I was telling Katie I got to get on the flight deck of an AN-124. Have you ever been in one of those?
I have, yeah. There's not a whole lot to it.
No.
A lot
In
of
fact, their
plastics
long-range
for a
nav,
while.
their long-range nav was a handheld Garmin GPS.
Yep.
But what was interesting is this was an older pilot, and he said, you see that panel right behind me? It's a duplicate of the pilot's flight panel.
Yeah.
It's sideways. He said the political officer used to sit there.
I don't doubt it.
And his orders were, if the pilot did not follow the instructions he was given, he was authorized to shoot the pilot and promote the co-pilot.
I believe it.
Are those universals?
What's that?
Are the FMSs universals
I
or
don't know if it's
GNS?
Universal or Rockwell. I don't know. It's McDonnell Douglas Fox.
Okay. I've flown Universal UNS-1s and I've flown the GNS XLSs. And
Yeah, I
that
don't think
looks
there's
more
any
like,
GNS on this. This is all 90s, 80s tech.
yeah, it looks more like the UNS Universal. Y'all do all the power plant management, everything a flight engineer used to do is handled by the two crew now.
Yeah, so
TCAS system test okay.
it's all flow lines now. So So you look up here and it looks very complicated.
Well,
it's not. It's just duplication of form. So if you see this, you got a green light, and that tells you whether it's on or not. Very similar to what you'll see in most airliners now, as far as flow lines. And they put it in, they configure it in the same way the schematic is produced.
Okay.
That way it's a little more intuitive. It's not as complicated.
well, I teach flows in airplanes, especially.
Yeah, so for big airplanes, this was one of the first big ones that they intentionally migrated away from the flight engineer. 2 people, not a problem. When things start going wrong, they can get wrong really fast. And that's where the system's knowledge can really, really catch you up if you're not really up to date on it. Relatively speaking, incredibly reliable system, and for the most part, incredibly intuitive. It doesn't do a lot for us. If you look at your conventional airliners that are being produced today, the computer is doing a tremendous amount of workload for those pilots as far as monitoring systems, when to shut something down, when not to. This airplane doesn't do that as much.
Are they progressing towards that in later models? No.
We're not going to see upgrades in that in this airplane. It's just easier to teach a pilot when this goes to this metric, turn it off or turn it on. Or
Hardest thing, Val, is the avionics.
Yeah. Now this is one of the first large airplanes that went back to a stick. Is
It
it
was
not?
the first large airplane to go to a stick.
Okay.
It was the first large airplane that went conventional, what we consider fly-by-wire.
Okay.
The reason they had a yoke back in the day is you needed that leverage to maneuver the controls, because it was still cables going to a hydraulic actuator. We have that. That's our backup. But for this, it's actually an electric signal that goes to a module that then manages the actuator for the flight control. So this airplane has anti-ballooning. It has automatic trim. So it's actually way easier to fly.
Is there any tactile feedback in your controls?
The rate of, it doesn't matter how fast you're flying, the rate at which you input a command is the exact same rate that it gives you the command, regardless of your orientation or whatever airspeed you're at, configuration, altitude.
So if you push in fast, it'll happen
fast. You ask it to do
fast?
something and it does something.
Okay. But is
And so if I'm asking it, it's going to give me a max rate. It's not going to hurt the airplane. It's already pre-programmed. But if I do something slow at 150 knots, the same deflection of angle on the stick will give me the same roll rate as if I was at 300 knots.
Okay.
And what flight control the airplane is going to use to do that, the airplane decides. Down low, we don't use ailerons. We're typically using spoilers.
Okay.
And up high, you use ailerons because of wing loadings and stuff like that. So the airplane does all that for us.
Tell me about the avionics.
What do you fly at GA?
Everything from...
Are you familiar with a GTN 750?
Yes.
Yes.
A GTN 750 is
The 182,
way
yeah.
more capable than this airplane.
You said it's what?
Way more capable.
Really?
Oh yeah. Our GPS and INS, we have a GPS INS mixture.
Right.
So knowing where we're at in space, it's incredibly accurate.
Okay.
It's incredibly accurate. But as far as our capabilities to fly complex precision approaches via GPS and user-friendly, a GTN 750 forces.
Wow.
Yeah, whenever we first started doing GPS approaches with the airplanes before base tracks.
Wow.
Yeah, so it takes, learning this is probably one of the hard, this
It's
and
more,
our
it's more of
autopilot.
an FMS.
It is an FMS,
Okay,
but
okay.
I mean, I fly Boeing products as well, and they have like 8 gauges. This thing's got over 30 gauges.
Oh,
It's
okay.
incredibly capable in that sense,
Gotcha.
but that user interface takes a tremendous amount of training to get efficient.
Yeah,
Whereas
you
the
fly
GNS, the GTN 750 or 600, whatever,
650, yeah.
you just like, I want to do an approach. We'll find the procedure picture and you click on it, and it's pretty easy. This airplane, not so much.
So you fly GA aircraft as well?
Yeah. I'm a fast team rep. I'm a CFI, MEI, double I.
Okay.
I do quite a bit of GAs.
Good. Good. How common is that in your experience in here?
A lot of it's liability. A lot of pilots don't like to do it because there's a liability associated with it. You know,
Well, I can
put
understand
your
from the
tickets on
instructor part. What about just being a GA pilot in a small
line.
airplane?
Most of our pilots, like 90% of our pilots, all fly for the airlines. So there's
Serious.
there's not a really big emphasis on them to do GA. They want to do something. So the practicality has become a money thing. They want to prioritize.
So you're talking locality when you talk liabilities? You're talking about legal ones?
Yeah, so like if I'm a CFI,
I'm gonna go down
something
first.
happens and I lose my ticket, and now it's affecting my CFI.
A lot of people don't realize how much liability and exposure CFIs
And
have.
many companies don't even allow it. You know, they'll tell you we don't want any flying on your ticket outside of their job.
Of this,
And a lot of corporations are like that now too.
But the military's not going to stop you.
Military is the one they could care less about.
Yeah, because it's more like voluntary. Like I'm in
Well,
CAP,
it's
so
not necessarily voluntary. It's just if for something were to happen, we are adjudicated by the Air Force, not the FAA. Like if we do something wrong, the FAA can violate the call sign. They're not violating the crew. When that goes back to the Air Force looks at it, and then we adjudicate whether we're going to, require training for the crew, or was that something that we looked at and said, yep, we want to accept that risk, we're okay. So a lot of that is handled internally. And relatively speaking, we've got an excellent relationship with the FAA. And relatively speaking, our pilots are pretty good.
Yeah. Got you. All right.
And we operate in a dynamic that's very great at times.
Nice talking to you.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming.
Yes, sir.
Frank, as far as crew required for this airplane, pilot, co-pilot, loadmaster, and that's pretty much it?
That's it. That's what we got today. That's the bare minimum. When we're deployed overseas, typically, depending on the mission that we're doing, we're 2 pilots, 2 loadmasters. If we're doing long haul stuff, you're 3 pilots, 2 loadmasters.
So you have an en route captain in the land takeoff, or y'all just switch out?
I mean, it depends. Once you become an aircraft commander, you can be put on the airplane with pilots with less than 200 hours. So it all depends on crew complement, what's available, what the mission requirement is. We try and complement it as best we can. In the reserves, that's not as big a deal as it is with active duty.
Mm-hmm.
Active duty, the learning curve is incredibly severe.
Oh, I imagine.
They don't have the time to season like the crew. And most of our folks come from active duty, and then they've got a job with the airline. So its efficiency is incredible. They may not be entirely proficient on the airplane, but in the aviation system, they're the best out there.
Now, will your HUD let you get down below real sight minimums when you're coming in for approach? I know a friend of mine used to fly.
Yes, sir.
Can you go down to 100 feet, or can you
We can do
go
a
0-0?
zero approach, but we have to fly it by hand.
Okay.
You can turn the autopilot off at a certain point, but we don't have an auto land on the airplane.
Okay.
But yeah, we are certified down to Cat 2. And with this airplane, we were also one of the first airplanes to incorporate a HUD. And the reason we incorporated the HUD is for big airplanes, relatively speaking, we fly on the backside of the power curve, particularly when we're landing.
Sure.
We don't have a set degree. The airplane tells us a degree that it wants. Numerically, it doesn't give us a degree, but it gives us an index, and we set the flaps according to that. And it can be anywhere between 20 to 30 degrees, depending on whatever it looks at for our weight and CG. It calculates that for us because we have to put it into the system. But whenever we're landing, you really need the HUD to land properly because we don't flare. Well, we do flare, but it's not a
It's
conventional
like a
flare.
level off and weight.
It's not a 3-stage where you're in the descent, you transition to a level off, and then you transition to a pitch up attitude. We don't do that. The airplane is always in a pitch up attitude, and we reduce the descent rate. So when we get down to 50 feet, we actually push the power up. And with these flaps, it actually blows air down
Sure.
and
that
stops
stops your descent rate.
and that's how we land. There is no descent nose down attitude, pitch attitude. The airplane is vectoring down, but the pitch is not down. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So we're managing all that through the HUD, and relatively speaking, it's like flying a video game.
Big what?
It's like flying a video game.
Oh, yeah.
Particularly because you're focusing so much on what that instrument is telling you, and it's incredibly accurate. And I tell folks, once you learn how to fly, I always tell students, it's an incredibly easy airplane to fly, incredibly hard to fly well.
Now, is there any fly by the seat of your pants feel that? Can you feel when the airplane's set up right, as opposed to when you're sync rate or you're too fast?
That's why I say it's hard to fly well.
Yeah.
If you're flying it really well, there is no seat of pants flying. Whenever you're doing an instrument approach.
pretty much by
When
the
you're
numbers.
doing our tactical stuff, very much so, because you're putting the airplane in an attitude that big airplanes typically don't go in.
Well,
But for our instrument approaches and stuff like that for just simple landings. No, I tell people it's easier than necessity.
Well, I
You
know
literally can fly it by your fingers.
when I fly on the airlines occasionally, I can tell when the pilot has gotten the airplane kind of in the groove.
Yeah.
Even the pad, you
You
can
can
feel
also
it.
tell when it turns the autopilot off.
Yeah. Well, and it's, I teach my kids, most of the airplanes I fly, you fly by feel.
Yes.
Sight, sound, nose, attitude.
Without the HUD, you would have a lot less of that. Because with this HUD, it is so precise, and it can line you up so precise. You can see everything changing that traditionally you won't.
Hey,
Like if
pilot.
we're coming in for a crosswind landing, you can look through the HUD and say,
I saw that
we have a
you're
crosswind
the same
landing, whether
person I
they're
saw.
calling it or not. And the airplane might look fine.
I love you, TV. It's my favorite PBS station.
You might look at it and say, yeah, we're angled down the runway. With the HUD and how we fly this aircraft, it's incredibly accurate. Incredibly accurate instrumentation in the HUD. You know exactly where the airplane's heading. And like I said, Donald Douglas nailed it whenever they designed the flight control system for the airplane. And it was very early. I mean, it was, like I said, one of the first ones that truly went after fly-by-wire. That's why they went with the stick instead of the yoke. The only reason Boeing is still using yoke is because that's their brand. Like 777, 76, a lot of that is now going fly-by-wire. It's all new trim, just like this airplane. And that's why Airbus has gone to the stick. Because that's the way they want to do their training.
Yeah. I'm sorry for taking up so much of your time.
No,
but
sure. We
thank you very
appreciate
much.
it. Absolutely.
How high will it go? How fast will it go? All the way up.
You can tase him now.
When I go to this thing, the radio control guy, the kids don't come out the bed. Grab the handrail.
Stand up.
Bunk beds.
Well, they used to have a double bed in here, but
You've got handrails on both sides. Huh? I've already been down and back. Yeah.
We're going to try and get some video. We're riding back in this thing.
Okay.
So we're going to try and get some video. We'll send it to you guys for the
Great.
Facebook
Well, thank
video.
you.
Yeah, I figured we've got a 182 in Mount Pleasant. We figured it'd be some more fun for the kids to fly up here in this.
Well, when you can, take advantage,
Yeah.
man. Will they let you drive?
No, not